Hello and welcome to another edition of Another Book Review. This week I'll be reviewing John Scalzi's Redshirts. This will be a spoiler-full review. This book is difficult to talk about without spoiling the kind of main concept of the book. So if you have not yet read Redshirts and do not want to be spoiled, I'm going to ask that you switch this off now and come back when you have read it. It is by John Scalzi, who I've reviewed in the past. I reviewed The Collapsing Empire. I'll leave a link below if you want to check out that review. But my review will be the same. I'll go very briefly over the main plot of the book, talk about what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, who I'd recommend it to, and finish off with what I'll be reading next time. Again, there will be spoilers ahead, so if you don't want to be spoiled for this book, please turn off this in 3, 2, 1. So Redshirts is about a group of characters who are on a Star Trek Enterprise-like ship called, I believe it's called the Intrepid in the book, and they soon realize that they are characters in a television show, and similar to Star Trek, the original series, the characters who are the main characters are surrounded by other characters who have really gruesome and untimely deaths. And the characters that this book focuses on are the characters who would be assisting the main characters in a Star Trek type show. So the main character in this book is a character named Dahl, who goes on to realize that he's a character in this show based on the way that everyone interacts around him, based on things like mysteries being solved through kind of incredible technology, the way that every other character around him in his department or area of specialty avoids these kind of 5 main characters because they don't want to get called on for missions. Whenever one of the main characters comes around, they don't want to work on the bridge because that's where people are more likely to be killed on the ship. There's certain ship levels where whenever they're attacked by an enemy ship, there seems to be death and destruction there. So I thought that was kind of a clever, fun point of the book. And the characters, in order to work around this, there's some kind of logic and reason kind of get waved aside, but they essentially find a way to interact with the writers of this television show in the year 2010. So they kind of take a ship and take a wormhole and visit these writers and try to convince them to find a way to make this not be the case, to kind of stop using them as cannon fodder to increase to make the show keep running. And so they interact with the writers of the show and the people who play, the actors who play them on the show, who are basically genetically identical to them. So it's a fun book. It's of the John Scalzi stuff that I've read, I think it's definitely the lightest. I like this a little bit less than Old Man's War, but I think I liked it more than Locked In or Collapsing Empire. And I thought it was just fun. And this is it's one book. I think it's a good introduction to John Scalzi. You kind of get his sense of humor, and there's some, I'll get into it when I get into things that I didn't like as much, but you get kind of his sense of humor and the way he kind of views science fiction. And tonally, this book is strange in the sense that it's broken into a few different sections. There's a main section of the story, which is the story that I mentioned, which is this crew realizes they're on a spaceship and they go back to try to rectify this situation so they don't get treated as cannon fodder, not killed in this kind of due to the needs of this television show. There's also 3 codas, and each of those codas involve characters on Earth after they've kind of realized that these people the characters in this television show have their own inner lives. And I thought that was some of the really most poignant stuff. I've seen there are some people who criticize it for being too meta. To me, kind of the emotional core of this, I think, if I wanted to attribute maybe something deeper than John Scalzi maybe intended, was I think in some ways is John Scalzi kind of calling out writers of not really being able to connect popcorn entertainment to kind of the human condition, and not really, or utilizing death as more of a titillating thing than kind of realizing that people are impacted by death, and this is something that really happens to people, and it carries with them. And I think the last story is this, I thought, really moving look at how not even being directly by not even being directly impacted by someone's loss, but even being kind of parallel to that loss can really impact you and make you question what you've done and where you're going. I was really moved by that last story. I thought that was really good. Some of the other stuff, the other codas were a little bit more hit or miss for me, and that's maybe some of the pacing issues. I think maybe you could have, there's a couple of those places where it could have been sanded down, but it's a pretty quick read. I think I read this in about 2 or 3 days. So I thought it was fun. The parts that were fun were really fun, and I think the parts that were emotional, especially the last coda, I think worked really, really well. The criticism I had would, John Scalzi's humor could maybe feel sophomoric or juvenile to some people, and I got that sense here. I don't know, the plot machinations and the hand waving stuff may bother some people, and like I said, I've had some people really bothered by the codas, which do kind of dive into some metaphysical thoughts of the meaning of characters and the meaning of art and the meaning of some of these things. If you have the ability to write something and it impacts other people, what responsibility do you have? And the kind of idea of responsibility kind of comes through in those codas pretty strongly. I enjoyed the book for the most part. It's pretty short. It has kind of, like I said, kind of two sides to it. It has kind of a deeper side and more of a lighter side. I definitely enjoyed the lighter side. I mostly enjoyed the deeper side too. If you're not a fan of metafiction and this idea rubs you the wrong way, you're not going to like the book. And I think it's a good introduction in the sense that I personally am not a huge Star Trek fan, and I was able to jump in and understand and see some of those points that he was making as far as the maybe laziness of the writers of the television show, who are just kind of hitting the same beats again and again and again without any kind of real regard to these characters. And I think Scalzi coming in and saying, if you have characters, you could aim for something greater than what you're doing. And that there's a chapter where the writer of the head writer of the show has to struggle with this knowledge that once he writes something, he may be harming other people. And I think that if we get to the criticisms of being self-referential or meta, that was probably the part that worked the least for me. But overall, if you're a fan of John Scalzi and haven't read Redshirts, I do recommend it. I think it's a fun read. So that's Redshirts. Next time I will be reading Charged by Emily Bazelon, which is about the prosecutor's power in the criminal justice system and how it can be changed or questioned with a goal towards lessening the mass incarceration system. So some completely different than Redshirts. But that's what I'll be reading next time. If you have read Redshirts and you had a stronger reaction to it than I did, please let me know below. I still think I like Old Man's War a little bit more than this, but I definitely, for the ideas that were in it and also just kind of the fun romp that it was, I did enjoy it. So until next time, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. I have my Twitter link below. I also have the review for John Scalzi. The thing I didn't mention, this won a Hugo Award, so it is very well respected, and I think it's one of the books that put him on the map. So again, if you haven't gotten a chance to check it out, you can. And also, if you want to learn more about John Scalzi, I'll have the link to Collapsing Empire below. Until next time, bye.